What's up, fungal associates? Welcome to Completely Arbortrary, the podcast about trees and other related topics. I'm one of your hosts. My name is Alex Crowson.
I'm another one of your hosts. I never know how you're going to make that transition.
I'd like to keep you on your toes,
I like being on my toes. I really like it,
Yeah.
I suppose. You knows.
It's good for calf strength.
Exactly. Thank you, Alex. This is me, Casey Clapp, host
Yes.
the second. I'm here to talk about trees today, along with you, Alex, my friend.
Yes, that's right. Casey, I told you before we started recording.
Yeah,
Let's just get right into it.
let's get it.
Well, two things.
Okay.
I want to say something really quick.
You did okay, please.
My talking point,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't want to spend... everybody listened to last week's episode.
Yeah.
And it will have sounded normal to you.
Yeah.
But I cut out 15 minutes of conversation at the beginning of the episode.
Those are my favorite 15 minutes, Alex.
It was great fun, Casey, but it did not make for a good podcast of Completely Arbortrary.
Fine.
It's a little overboard. We talked
Sure.
about movies, you know.
I love movies.
But this time I have a related talking point. We don't have to talk about it for 15 minutes.
I just checked my new watch. So
Oh, yes.
I know how long we have to talk.
Casey's a watchman.
I'm a watchman now. Now, as you know, I watch things. By
Yeah.
that I mean I wear a watch that watches the time.
He moved out of his house and moved into a watchtower.
Exactly.
Like, Casey, you're going too far.
I feel like it really is just the only thing that feels right for me right now. I really do, Alex.
He got his hands surgically replaced with the hands of a clock.
Yeah, it's just they constantly twist. It's very there's a lot of tension there.
Anyway, I'm reading The Lord of the Rings.
Wow.
For the first time as a patient adult, I'll say. You know?
Yeah, okay.
And one thing I am finding that I didn't really pick up on in previous attempts is how lovingly Tolkien writes about nature.
Yes, very much so.
You can tell he just loves the trees and the streams and the cobwebs.
It's such a huge thing, right?
Yeah. And the dew glistening. There's lots of dew glistening.
Yes, that's true.
There's no shortage of hedges. So I will just say we ordered a book today, Casey.
Yeah, we did.
Called The Flora of Middle Earth.
Uh-huh.
That I'm very excited to read and peruse and get some inspiration from for a new thing coming to Completely Arbortrary.
Wait, what's this?
Well, this is so far down the,
You didn't
just
tell me
more
about this.
Lord of the Rings talk.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. You did say that, but I thought you were about to announce something. You just pulled the rug from
Without
under us.
telling you.
Yeah, which I'm very excited about. We're going to announce we are going to become completely Lord of the Rings tree.
Yes.
So everyone's aware.
Our final form.
Our final form.
Anyway, that's that. And then the
Hell
joke
yeah.
that I promised
Oh,
you.
yes. That's what I've been looking for. Okay, check my watch. All right, yeah, we're on time.
You know, we usually talk about trees on this podcast.
True, yeah.
And every episode is about a tree, but I was so surprised that today is our first episode about an animal, the snow fox.
What?
Yeah.
Huh.
Well, I looked at the show notes and I see we're talking about white fur.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Oh, Alex, I had no idea where you're going with that, and it just completely caught me off guard.
Yeah, I could tell.
Well, I have to admit something to you, Alex.
What?
Why that did it for me.
Why?
Okay, so I got to give you a little bit behind the scenes right now.
Wow, fun.
Okay.
People love that.
They do. They really do. They really do. So we can talk about the white fur if you want. However,
Oh, wow.
if we talk about the white fur, then you will have to accept an extemporaneous podcast performance by yours truly. Because the quick little background is we have had everything planned out properly.
Yes.
Since March, end of February. Yeah, don't overpromise here, Alex. Since early February, we planned out everything we're doing through July. One of those was right now. I'm just finishing up the work on my tree identification book.
That's right.
Just hit my 341st tree on Friday, which is the last of them. Everything here is downhill, but it's also a little bit like one of those false summits where you get to the top and you're like, oh, yes, wait, what? There's more?
Oh, damn.
That's where I'm at.
Yeah.
Anyway. So we ended up skipping over our recording last week, took a legitimate break because we really, truly needed that. And well, Alex, it turns out that 2 weeks ago, we were supposed to do the white fir. That was, in fact, going to be coming out after we talked about a different tree, which was called the Almaciga, something like that. Honestly, I didn't look it up because I've never said it out loud before.
Okay.
But it's another tree. So then I saw in the future we were going to be talking about the tree Alerce. And so I said, oh, great, that's the tree we're going to do. And I got those two, the Almaciga, confused. So, Alex, everything's been screwed up, and I actually did a bunch of research on a tree called the Alerce.
I see.
Which I'm stoked to talk about. But I also have to say I like this challenge.
No.
Because I do know what we're talking about.
Well, it was ultimately my fault for looking at the wrong page on our project management software here.
Yeah. You went to June instead of going. Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah. But on our calendar, it says we're talking about white fir today.
I will say this, Casey. Next week, when we talk about the white fir, which is happening next week.
I mean, it can happen any day of the week, man.
I will be repeating my joke, and I expect you to respond appropriately.
I think that would be fine. Now, Alex, I just want to reiterate. I know exactly what we're talking about. I did a bunch of research already on the white fir. I'm prepared to talk about that right now. Although, I'm also prepared to talk about a different tree. So
you can't do this to me.
No. Hey,
you know what?
This is your thing.
How about this, Casey? Live here on Completely Arbortrary. This, I've said it before that we've jumped the shark here and there.
Yeah.
The first big one was the time traveling, the bogus journey thing.
That was not adventure. No, that was
yes, it
was peak.
Yes, no, it was.
That was Breaking Bad season 3. It's incredible.
Live here on Completely Arbortrary right now, I am going to flip a coin.
All right, this is exciting. Do you have a coin?
I do.
Alex is getting up to find a coin.
This coin is a 25-cent piece.
25-cent piece from the United States of America?
That's right. Heads, we're talking white fir.
Okay.
Tails, we're talking
Alerce. We're good.
Here we go. Tails.
It's tails. Oh my God. We're talking about the tree I'm prepared to talk about.
Well, one of the two that you're prepared to talk about.
100%.
But it must happen after a break. We'll be right back with Completely Arbortrary. Welcome back to Completely Arbortrary. Today we're talking Alerce. I've never once heard of this tree, Casey.
Yes, you have, and I'm excited, though, to hear it because we are using the pronunciation from Spanish, which is actually just larch. So it's actually, funny enough, the way we were just like, yeah, it's a pine, it's a fir. The Spanish apparently just called this the larch for no good reason because it's evergreen, so it doesn't really make a lot of sense.
Exciting. Well, this is Fitzroya cupressoides.
Yes, that is right.
And cupressoides is, don't tell me.
Okay.
Not the Cooper's. So that is cypress-like.
Yes, it's cypress-like leaves. Correct.
And Fitzroya is leaves.
No, Fitzroya is the guy's name. That is one Captain Fitzroy.
Duh. Okay. Oh, so
Robert Fitzroy.
Oides is leaves.
Yes.
What's like?
That's it. Well, it's just like putting them together. So this would be cypress-leaved Fitzroya.
The cypress leaf Fitzroya.
Exactly,
okay.
Yeah. So, like, it was just, there's not really a like. It's just like, you mash those together.
Okay,
so,
I thought there was a suffix that was like.
I think it would translate as that. So, cupressoides, glyptostroboides, that means that they have leaves like this plant. So I think it's kind of a translation-ish thing.
Yeah, I just got it wrong. That's okay.
No, you didn't. I think what I'm arguing is you got it right.
No.
All right. I'm going to back off.
We're fighting.
Feeling just a little bit of a beef. Yes.
Should have been white fir.
Okay, I'm just gonna act like we're talking about Alerce, and then I'm just gonna talk about white fir the whole time. So it grows up in North America here, all over the West.
All right, Casey. Well, let's imagine that you and I. You said Spanish. So
I did.
Maybe we are walking through Mexico.
Well, not Mexico. A little bit further south.
Maybe we're walking through Panama.
A little bit further south.
Maybe we're walking through Bolivia.
A little bit further south.
Maybe we're walking through Brazil.
A little bit further west.
Maybe we're walking through Argentina.
Really south of that area.
Maybe we're walking through Chile.
Oh, yeah, Alex, totally.
We come across some Alerce. Let's ID this tree.
All right. Well, the other name that I thought you might find interesting is La Juan.
La Juan.
I believe that's how it's pronounced.
I wouldn't say La Juan. I would say La Juan.
La Juan. This is a La Juan.
Yeah. If it was a J, it would be Juan.
Okay, perfect.
Like the name.
Exactly.
Juan.
That's what made me second guess it when I was just explaining it. Anyway, sorry
doing
for
great.
this. Thank you, Alex. I appreciate it. So this is a tree that is named that in a similar way, in a similar forest, probably by similar, very closely related peoples as the Pejuan, which is the monkey puzzle tree if you're up here.
I think it's Peiwen.
Exactly, Peiwen. See? God damn it.
I could have not corrected you, which would have been fine, but it was so much funnier given the context to correct you.
I really appreciate this.
No
You're
problem.
not even taking the language app.
So do they grow together,
They
kind of?
do.
Okay,
yeah,
cool.
They grow together, and they are, it is in the cypress family, so it's in Cupressoides, of which its leaves are named. However, it's a monotypic genus, so there's just one species in this genus, in this family, which is our Fitzroya cupressoides.
Oh, wow. Cool.
Now, it is... it's a fascinating tree, and it was brought to our attention. And this is where you might have heard of it before, because it also has a couple other common names, something like Andes cypress or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a tree that grows down in South America on the west side of the very southern Andes Mountains in very south Chile. We'll talk a little bit more about that a little bit later. So suffice it to say, it is a temperate rainforest tree, and it gets really big and really old.
Which sure does.
And that is why it was in the news in 2022.
Wow.
Because people thought it might be the oldest tree, even older than what we now know as the oldest tree.
I'm just putting together Fitzroya.
You're remembering this?
Yes, there was a big tree scandal.
Yeah, and we'll get to that.
Oh, okay.
We'll
I
get
won't
to that.
spoil it, but let's, whet your appetites.
Exactly. I have never seen this tree in person, though I believe that we could plant it here in Oregon, potentially.
Okay.
It does get a little too cold, but we'll talk about that again. Also, it is a gigantic cypress-looking tree. It gets up to 147 feet. It's about the average tallest tree.
Damn.
It's about 45 meters if you're elsewhere who does meters. And it gets about 10 feet, 3 meters in diameter.
It is very giant sequoia-esque.
It really is. And that's also how I would describe the form.
Yeah.
Because the form of it has like these billowing kind of branches that look like big puffs of kind of thread-like or like very fine-looking foliage that just create these big poofs, very cypressy.
It's like a tower of clouds.
Yes. Oh, it's a green tower of clouds.
Yeah.
It's really a beautiful tree, and it grows down in these massive big forests. It's like the keystone kind of species for these forests.
Cool.
So as soon as you get up to certain spaces, and it grows next to and around the Peijuan. Yes. I'm very proud of myself. And so they grow down there, and they are they're big forest trees. You can find them growing in forests, and they specifically don't grow in big disturbance areas. They'll seed in kind of slowly but surely, but what they like is the gaps in the canopy where there's like decaying matter below.
Interesting.
That's where they're going to seed in, which kind of leads you to believe that they are probably likely the dominant late succession tree.
Yeah.
Because if it doesn't want to do that, then it won't, it would be like, I'm just going to wait until there's a huge disturbance, then all file back in, like a Douglas fir or lodgepole pine, something like that. In this case, they will find a little gap, and then a new little seedling will grow up.
And that's like, it's just slow and steady.
Exactly, yeah. And they live for a really long time. That's another big, like late succession kind of thing.
Yeah.
They're very decay resistant. With that same kind of cypress wood that's inside, that's similar to the sequoias and western red cedar and any other cypress family tree. They tend to be really They smell really good. Hinoki cypress and sugi, your white cedars, all these things.
Kind of a citrusy smell.
Yeah. It's like that citral. What is it? With the hinoki cypress, it's like that very particular
I think it is
scent.
Citral, yeah.
Yeah. So it adds into that pantheon of cypress trees. So they grow old, they stay there for a long time, and like Western red cedar, they'll fall apart, like get these big bulbous bases and then regrow new entire stems. Some of the old ones have trees growing on them, just like the Western red cedar.
Can I just tell you,
Please.
That's one of my favorite things that I've learned about this in this podcast.
I'm so happy to hear that.
Was
trees on trees.
Yeah, trees on trees, baby.
You got to get up to the Olympic Peninsula, Alex. Like, it's just, some of those red cedars out there are true monoliths like you've never seen before.
I would love to plan
It's crazy.
a trip.
In fact, I can't even say monolith. That's, in fact, exactly wrong. They are polyliths. They have many other trees growing on a monolith. They're just outstanding.
It's like if the monolith in 2001 Space Odyssey had little like shelves that also held smaller monoliths.
Yes, exactly, of different species, obviously. So, and it's also to also kind of call back to the rest of the cypresses, Alex. That has the same kind of bark too, reddish, strappy bark.
One of my favorite barks.
It's incredible.
Is this sort of the bark that kind of like shreds like pulled pork?
Yes, yeah, totally. It really does scream cedar family.
Totally.
Like, it looks like a redwood. I think most people compare it to giant sequoias. Those are the ones, if you can't remember, that grow up in the mountains, not along the coast in California. They're the big ones that are drought tolerant, those huge bases, more orange bark than red bark, if we're going to get technical.
These have more orange bark?
No, sorry, I was describing the sequoia. These are very much dark red brown.
Cool.
It's gorgeous bark. Now, as you go up this tree, if you're lucky enough to find one, well, I shouldn't say lucky, actually, I should say if you're unlucky enough to find a small one, because a lot of the big ones have already been removed. So you're finding this kind of second growth forest. You'll be able to see the leaves at a lower level, but they tend to grow high up, create these big, huge canopies where you can't really see the top. A lot like those ancient trees over in New Zealand. I wonder why. And they grow in whorls of 3, which is really fun. It's just like the junipers in our area. They have needles or foliage that is in 3s, but they're also rotated so that if you have 3 prongs, the next 3 prongs are just offset, so they sit between the first 3 prongs.
Cool.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's almost like the monkey puzzle, right?
Yes, yeah, kind of.
Like
yeah.
they're tucked. They're like stacking chairs. Like,
yes,
they're sort of tucked into each other.
It is perfect how you describe this, Alex.
I love that.
It's really beautiful, and these leaves in particular are kind of interesting because they don't just look kind of like a juniper. They kind of look like a soft juniper, where they're a little bit plumper. They're a darker kind of forest green as opposed to the bluish kind of white that you see on a lot of junipers.
Yeah.
And they also have something that's very in common with Thuiopsis
I know it.
dolabrata. What is it?
The stomatal lines.
Stomatal lines.
They are very vibrant.
They are so gorgeously beautiful.
It's like somebody took a white marker and made a little... Because sometimes stomatal lines can kind of like... They're just like lighter green.
Yeah, exactly.
They can kind of blend in. I have a hard time seeing them.
Like, is it not? But it's not like... It won't like catch your eye.
Pop. Yeah, this pops. This is like white paint.
Yes, as they say, this slaps.
This stomatal line slaps.
Right in the face.
And then all the young kids roll their eyes and walk away.
Yeah, hey, we're going to make a TikTok about this. I'm fucking stoked.
Oh my God. Now that whole vision just popped into my head.
Alex sees it now.
Of you attempting a TikTok dance with completely unrelated, like, dense text above your head about stomatal bloom.
That sounds great. Let's do it.
With no, like, style or anything. It's just, like, textbook
I'm ready.
copy.
It's just, it's in Arl font.
Yes.
Not good. Well, so... If you get the chance, people out there in the universe, you fungal associates whom I love so dearly, go give this a Google and just look at the brightness. These are like 3 paddle-shaped leaves, so they look like somewhere between a small flattened maybe fir needle, and a juniper. Mm-hmm. They curl up backwards, so they reflex off the stem. So they're technically, I would describe as all-shaped.
Yes, I was going to say.
But then at the very tip, they have a tiny little point where they kind of pop themselves back. So they kind of do this really like big kind of backwards curve, like a parenthesis, excuse me. And then the very top of that parenthesis just kind of hooks the tiniest bit. Like it's very tiny. You almost can't even see it.
Can I propose a new description for this type of needle?
Oh my God, yeah.
Like cobra.
Oh yeah, that is so perfect, Alex.
It's like a little cobra head, curved cobra head.
That's such a perfect description. Yeah, they got cobra-like leaves, cobra-style leaves.
Yeah,
ooh, yeah, we can work with this.
Yeah,
ooh, I love
Cobresque.
Cobresque. Ah, perfect. Now that is science. Cobroides.
Yeah. Fitzroya cobroides.
That's a perfect description. Now on either side of this curve, they have two bright, lovely white stomatal lines that just pop out like nobody's business. They look like candy canes, the color green and white. It's amazing. It's just amazing.
Really, really gorgeous. I'm jazzing to talk about these cones.
Yeah, have you seen these little cones? Have you looked them up?
I think they look like.
Yeah,
they're corn nuts.
They look like corn nuts. Oh my God, that's exactly right. They look like corn nuts either in and of themselves or like a couple of them. I should say, particularly 9 jammed right next to each other.
Yeah,
they look exactly like that.
Handful of corn nuts.
There are 9 exact scales.
Wow.
Just like the leaves, and this is always so beautiful. It's a callback to the shape of the leaves.
Oh, each of those corn nuts is a scale of a cone?
In a theoretical way, yes.
Okay.
Because that's what cone scales ultimately are. They're just modified.
They're just corn nuts.
They're just corn nuts. They're just modified corn nuts.
When you buy corn nuts at a 7-Eleven, it's just cone scales.
It's just cone scales. Don't let them trick you, okay? Like that is just capitalism not telling you the truth.
Yeah. So sorry, say again?
They are the same orientation as the scales of the leaves.
Modified leaf.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So just like with, let's say, the pine family stuff, the needles are spirally arranged and the cones are spirally arranged.
Yeah.
With most of the cypress family stuff, it's the same, but usually there's pairs or triplets of things, just like this, where the cones are just modified leaves that have also gotten woodier and harder. So these cones are 3 on 3 on 3, which equals 9.
Cool. Good math.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you. I was counting on my fingers. It's exactly the same numbers of whorls, and they are kind of split in, so they're all rotated, so they nest inside each other.
Cool.
The 3 bottom ones, they have no they're very small and miniature. They don't have anything that's any seeds on it. The next one has a few seeds, and then the final layer is the biggest and the most plump, and they have seeds right in there.
How curious.
Yeah, isn't that just aren't they just very adorable?
So could you pop this off the tree as one thing?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay.
They do not fall apart, or if they do, it would just be like any other cone, you can just kind of break it apart.
Sure, okay.
Yeah,
so there is an axis there.
I believe so, correct.
Or an axle?
Axis. Axle is the armpit. It's kind of the space that is between the stem and the petiole.
Okay.
So the other thing is that they have a tiny little resin-secreting glandish thing right at the very tip that exhales, and I'm quoting now, that exhales a fragrant odor.
At the tip of the cone scale?
Yeah, exactly.
Interesting.
Yeah, so there's one little resin canal that just kind of lets this little delightful scent out.
Why?
I don't know. That's a great question. My guess is the scent has really nothing particular to do with it. It just happens to smell that way. And it's a resin that helps maybe keep it sealed or something like that. Maybe there's an animal that eats it, but I haven't read anything that says that.
That is an interesting thing we run into quite a bit. Is like, oh, this thing smells so good. It must, and then we project like human feelings on the tree. It must be trying to attract animals.
Right.
But like we decided that it smells good.
Exactly.
You know, it's a neutral smell to nature maybe.
Potentially, yeah.
But we are just like, hey, we like that smell.
So other things must also.
Right. But it's just like, that's just the chemical that grows inside of it, right?
Yeah, because that chemical in another situation is just doing something else. And it's inside the tree, so you wouldn't really smell it.
It just happens to smell good to you.
Yeah. Now, I think that this is curious because I'm reading a book called The Entangled Life by Sheldon Meldrake, and he specifically brings up this idea with psilocybin mushrooms, where initially people are like, oh, well, why did these mushrooms develop this thing that affects us humans so intensely? This must be a particular evolutionary advantage. And he was like, maybe now, but like this mushroom has been creating this exact same thing for millions of years.
Yeah.
We can figure this out. This one, though, we don't necessarily know. But psilocybin now today affects people, and now that everyone's trying to kind of backdate it, and he's like, whoa. We can't really do that. Maybe it has an advantage now, but when it initially started, maybe not. So in this case, the fact that some animals think it smells good, but it doesn't like attract them and get them to eat it, you know, like a nectar in a flower is attracting certain insects to do things. Or, you know, if it's a bad smelling tree, then that's doing it to get flies.
Sure.
You know? So there's all these other little things. I don't know the exact answer because as far as I know, nothing eats these seeds like what you'd think with a podocarp and then distributes them.
It's called retconning.
Oh, what does that mean?
It's like where, you know, Star Wars came out in 1977, right? And then here in 2024, you have fans being like, you know, oh, this thing happened in the new Solo movie, which is actually the reason why Luke Skywalker said this line in 1977. They're retconning like a reason for something to exist in the original movies.
Oh, yeah.
With material made 50 years after, you know?
I see. Okay, yeah. That's a perfect, accurate way to describe it.
Anyway.
I love this, Alec. God, I don't know anything about popular culture.
Well, I don't know anything about trees.
Well, luckily, when we're here together, we know everything.
We're quite the pair, huh?
Wow. Now, this tree is known as a superlative tree in South America. Now, it's known as the tallest conifer. I say conifer because there are taller broadleaf trees that grow in the Amazonian rainforest in South America.
Sure.
And when I say taller, I mean taller than either 187 feet, because we know for sure that there's one that gets about 187 feet. I believe it's about 45 meters or so.
God damn.
Huge.
That is so big.
But allegedly, there are some that get up to 70 meters tall, which is 229 feet.
That almost sounds like fake news.
It does. That's huge. But you got to remember, we have trees out in our forest that are that height right now, just chilling.
We do?
Yeah. Out
here?
In the Pacific Northwest.
Prove it.
Well,
I don't see them.
Give me a quick Google. I
look around my apartment.
I don't see anything taller than 10 feet. So they're big trees, you know?
Yeah. Wow.
But there has been, Alex, a bit of controversy because I was alerted to this tree. We were talking about this where it kind of had its big moment in 2022.
Yes, it's 15 minutes.
Exactly. That is because someone put out a...
Let me say something. Oh yeah, it's 15 minutes. Or should I say 15,000 years? Or how old did they? This is fun.
This is fun.
This is going to be good. I'm keeping all this in. How okay, yeah. Yes. This is my hold on. I've got something for this.
Okay.
It's not on my desk. Never mind. Looks like it had its 15 minutes of fame. Or should I say 5,000 years? Yeah!
Oh my gosh. Is that the Who?
All right, continue.
Did you just evoke CSI Miami?
I might have.
Your glasses take off?
Yeah, I couldn't remember if it was taking off or putting on.
That was beautiful. I appreciate everything you just did.
Please continue.
Anyway, this tree had its 15 minutes or 5,000 years of fame.
Right.
Because a article came out that said, is the world's oldest tree growing in a ravine in Chile?
Clickbait.
Exactly. Good clickbait. We'll talk about that in a second.
Okay.
But this then prompted our friend Tobin Mitnick, Jews Love Trees, on all the internet, to look into this tree, because one of the things about Tobin is he loves a bunch of giant sequoias down in California.
Yeah.
It's one of his favorite places to go. I think the boule tree is his favorite tree.
Boule.
And I was on it might just be boule. He's going to be upset if I mispronounce it either way. So he ended up writing a blog, and I follow his. If you should definitely do this. I think it's Substack Tobin Mitnick. You can find it.
Yeah.
So I ended up reading through this thing where he said there's a little bit of misinformation about this tree. It turns out that some people list the size of this tree as 12.6 meters in diameter.
12.6 meters.
Yes.
Math. 39 feet.
Very close. It's actually 41.3 feet.
Okay.
So that would be a tree that is a full 12 feet larger than the largest giant sequoias. And it would be just 5 feet shy of the tule tree, that Montezuma cypress that we covered down in Oaxaca in Mexico.
Which is like the thickest tree out there.
Yes, and it would be still just a little bit, that tree, the Oaxaca tule tree, is, if you smooth it out, it's 9.38 meters.
Yeah.
So it would be bigger than that. Like,
wow.
That would be huge.
Enormous.
Like, an enormous tree. Something that isn't just like casually, 12.6 meters. That's like, wait, I'm sorry, what?
It's like a spaceship coming out of the ground.
Exactly. It's gigantic. So he ended up doing a bunch of research down to like literally the archives of what Darwin said and all these other different things.
Wow.
And
what a nerd.
I know. He's just, after my own heart, Tobin. It was beautiful. I don't think I would have ever gone this far. He sleuthed way further than I can ever imagine.
Yeah.
And so he ended up finding a quote from the captain of the Beagle, the ship that had Darwin on it in the 30s, that actually, like, the words that they wrote.
Wow.
And Captain Robert Fitzroy, who the tree is actually named after,
yes,
said, the two largest trees seen by Mr. Douglas, no relation to our David.
Oh, thank you.
In his excursion from me, measured 124 and the other 22 feet round at 5 feet from the ground.
Wow.
So Tobin is pretty sure that someone read that and didn't say one tree that was 24 inches or 24 whatever, I think it's feet probably, in diameter. And the other one is this. Actually, I think it's around, so they did girth.
Okay.
So it ends up being a bit of a mathy problem here.
Yeah.
Where he thinks that someone actually took 124 as 124, not a single 24-foot round thing.
This is why you put in parentheses the numbers.
Right? And also you have to be clear about one tree that was.
Yes,
you know?
yes.
So he's thinking that actually
prepositions and shit.
Yes, you got to be like specific. He thinks maybe someone just read through this quickly, took a stat, and said, Darwin said, when it was actually Fitzroy, that he saw a tree that was about 130 feet, which is, when you math it all out, exactly like 12.6 or whatever.
Wow.
So it's a great article. I just loved reading through it, because he's a funny guy, so he's got all of his little quips in there. But ended up messaging a bunch of people in the tree world, and they're like, maybe, but we don't have the primary sources, so we can't I can't take it off, but I can't say yes.
Yeah.
It could also be that he said a 12.6 foot tree, because Darwin in 1835 would not have been measuring in meters. They used the imperial system.
It was Darwin was American?
No, Darwin is English.
Oh, they were using imperial.
Yes, which is what the standard was back then for English places. The metric system, meters, did not exist.
Interesting.
Or if it did exist, it wasn't used by the English.
Well, I also did not know that.
Yes. Yeah.
Cool. So they used miles back in the day.
Exactly. That's why we have the same thing that we have. This is why we are not that. Even though I think the English got smart and now they use meters half the time, I guess.
Oh, interesting.
Either way, now we can actually say that the biggest one is just shy of 14 feet.
How about that?
So it would be reasonable to suggest one of those two things. And I think that's why the tree people in the world, like at conifers.org, were like, well, we can't really say for sure, so we just have to take it with what it is. Even though everyone's pretty positive now that Tobin's like brought this up, that's crazy.
Well, okay, so they left they left the article up. They left all that.
Yeah. Basically, they just say Darwin once said, and there's no cited source for this. There's Wikipedia literally says citation required afterwards.
Wow.
So no one is quite sure where this 12.6 meters came from.
That seems like the wrong move.
It seems like you need to at least take it away if we don't have the primary sources. And like Tobin spent quite a bit of time, I assume. It would take me hours and hours to do this kind of work. For
them to be like, well, here's some facts. And then you're like, well, actually, no, these aren't. This might not be true.
Yes.
Not that it's not true, but that might not be true.
It's hard.
But then why would you be like, well, we're just going to leave it up anyway, even though maybe it's not true. Like, if it even have a chance at not being true, wouldn't you just take it down?
Yeah, or at least qualify it some way.
Yeah,
like,
put a big header at the top that says recent information has changed this.
No tree is even a quarter of that size.
Yeah.
It's like, or almost, I mean, maybe it's just past a quarter, but certainly, like, you're not going to get another, you cannot imagine a tree that is 3-4 times the size of the tree that's in front of you that is 3,600 years old and think, oh yeah, there's definitely going to be one that's certainly 4 times the size. You know?
It's a bit irresponsible, I think.
I do. I think so too. And
so if I Google that, will it pop up?
Yeah, you will. It will.
Damn.
You can go to conifers.org right now and you can read exactly what they say. And I love conifers.org. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
It is a beautiful, lovely thing. But they literally say in their remarkable specimen, Darwin saw specimens of up to 130 feet, 39.6 meters in girth.
Well, you know, they probably got a lot of clicks from this whole thing.
Yeah, maybe, right?
And they're like, we could just leave it up.
Yeah, I suppose that's fair.
We got ad dollars coming in.
Right. Well, that is...
I thought you had more integrity, conifers.org.
I thought you had more integrity.
Yeah, con is right.
Now, Alex...
I need
you to pull this back a little bit.
Let me say this. They put the con in conifer.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
I can't take you anywhere. The internet is not a safe place for you, Alex.
Not safe for Alex.
All right. Now that's just a little fun quip about this tree.
That wasn't the topic?
No. This is no topic. We're just talking about this tree today.
Okay.
This is a fascinating tree.
Yeah, it should have been white fur.
It should have been white fur. The topic of white fur is very interesting.
Well,
I'm very interested in this. I was ready.
I'm excited for it.
All right. Now, Alex, here's the thing that I kind of learned about, which is why if you listen to the ad that just played before we went into this big diatribe about this tree, you will have heard that I said that I'm hopefully going to go next in my travels to a small little village called Chile. It is incorporated as a state, and it's on the national level of cityhood. But
they're in the UN. Right?
They are. I believe so.
Yeah.
So maybe I'm just trying to wrap myself around and not admit that I said the wrong word, which I shan't. But I want to go to Chile because I want to go see these trees.
Yes.
Because it turns out that the reason that this tree is what it is, it's the tree that is potentially one of the oldest trees in the entire world. They have counts of this tree being over 3,600 years old, like counts by literal rings that have been cross-dated. So they know this. That's your standard dendrochronology. They also have some of the this one study that we've kind of talked a little bit around. That study came out and said that this tree is over 5,000 years old, but not just over 5,000, 5,484 years old.
Damn.
Do you know how old the oldest tree is? Methuselah, are the famed one, which I believe there's a few others that they found that are over 5,000, but not by a lot.
Was it like 4 something? 4.3?
Yeah, you're just about right. 4,853 years old.
So this would crush that by a good...
half century at least, right?
Yeah.
So it'd be an old tree. And so if you're going to say something like that, then that's like a big deal.
Yeah.
And people are going to look into it.
I'll back that up.
Yeah, and they did. So this is this guy who did this. His name is Jonathan Barichevich. He's a Chilean environmental scientist. And he measured the tree with a tree ring core and said it's X amount of years old. And then used a model that he developed to estimate the rest of the distance because the tree ring core didn't go all the way to the very center of the tree.
Oh, wow. He maxed it out.
Exactly, because it's a big old tree that he was measuring.
Yeah.
So then he had to say, okay, well, how can I make a good estimation of what the rest of the age is? And ended up finding that most likely 80% chance the tree's over 5,000 years old. And his final estimate was that 5,400-year-old number.
Wow.
That is just like a huge, huge claim. So this tree is essentially analogous to the redwoods of the South. So I was like, well, what the heck where are these things growing that they can do this? And why have I not heard of this before? Well, it turns out that we have heard of this before, Alex, but we never quite got into it. This is grown in the same forests as the monkey puzzle, as the peiwen.
Yeah.
This is called the Valdivian temperate forest.
Okay.
Temperate rainforest.
Oh.
This is, an almost equivalent forest down to a T as the Great Pacific Northwest where we stand today.
No kidding.
Not even like it's a shoo-in. As you go further north, you do the same things that happen when you go further south where we are, and vice versa.
Yeah.
The same amount of gigantic amounts of rainfall. A huge mountain range that blocks all of the westerlies, which are coming and hitting exactly in this right spot. So the westerlies are these winds that are kind of between 40 and 50-ish degrees of latitude. Mm-hmm. So we get those. They come and they hit the Cascades. They dump all their rain, and that's why we're really wet on one side.
Wow.
Same exact thing happens on the southern side of our planet, and those hit the Andes, and it drops this massive amount of rain on that side of the Andes.
So we here in Portland are in similar latitude is the long one.
Yes, exactly. We are just that's the one that measures your north-south distance from the equator.
Lateral, I guess,
yes.
Right?
You got it.
Which means
dude.
to the side.
Well done.
As Chile.
Correct.
Chile?
More or less, yeah.
Okay.
So it's these are all within degrees. So we are very close to the 45th parallel.
Yeah.
Famously, Salem is there.
Oh.
As you go up north and you go south between the 50 and 40th parallel, that's when you start to get this kind of very particular kind of weather pattern.
Cool.
And because we have the same kind of geography as well, it's almost exactly the same.
Wow.
As you go further south, you become more of a Mediterranean climate. Northern California, famous for grapes and all that kind of stuff, just like the Mediterranean.
Yeah.
You go down to Chile, you go a little bit north, there's another ecoregion, same exact kind of thing. It's very Mediterranean, famous for grapes.
Where is that? Argentina?
No, this is all in Chile. This is
this is all happening in Chile.
Exactly. This is just the next kind of ecotype that's just a little bit further north called the littoral ecoregion.
Okay.
And then as you go south, there's the Magellanic subpolar forests, which is exactly the same thing you get as you go north through BC up into Alaska.
How curious.
And you get a bunch of rain. So this is actually probably more equivalent exactly where we're at to probably something more like the coast of British Columbia and very southeast Alaska.
Sure.
Where it's like such a gigantic amount of rain. The trees get huge and old and they stay there. And they just have forests that don't necessarily have fire that comes through all the time. They're right on the coast. As soon as you get over the Andes, it's the same dry kind of steppe plateau area. It's filled with grassland, just like we have here.
Yeah, in Eastern Oregon.
It's incredible.
Cool.
And I got to go see this. The Valdivian.
Oh, you did?
No, I've got to.
Oh,
I must.
shit.
I have to go see this.
I thought you buried the lead.
Yeah, no.
And I've been there.
Oh, God, no. This is the same way when my friends told me about Madeira in Portugal. They're like, this is the most incredible place. It's like a weird subtropical rainforest. It's like so strange. I was like, what? Loa Silva, what's that? It just seems like an amazing place. And these trees are the dominant trees that grow there.
I mean, you might feel very much at home there, Case.
Yeah, Alex, actually, I'm happy that you said that. Alex is like, why do I always accidentally step into these things?
No, it's almost like a holy, it's like a divine sort of like.
It's always going to be there. It's destiny.
Yeah. I mean,
it's your like, sense.
It's how birds fly. They don't think about it.
They just do. I just say what needs to be said.
I just lead into transitions accidentally.
Well, the reason I say that particularly is that when so I just recently did a talk with Oregon Wild on why tree identification is important. And one of the things I brought up is that if you either knowingly or unknowingly stay in a place for a long time, you get to know the plants and the animals, the cycles, everything about it. It becomes familiar in a way that if you go to a different place that's just slightly different, you'll be like, something's weird
Totally,
here.
yeah.
It's just off. And it's the trees are a different texture. There's different species, so they grow a different way. They're they're taller or shorter, you name it. There's like these little changes, right?
I imagine it could even get down to like a subconscious level of like there are different bird calls.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if we went to Japan, you and I would probably not really feel that, because very similar species grow there, down to certain species of Douglas fir and pine and hemlock. Like they have the analogous species in Japan and the analogous climate that we have in the Pacific Northwest.
Cool.
If you go down to this Valdivian rainforest, temperate rainforest, they are filled with Gondwanan flora. So they look and feel a lot more like New Zealand.
When you say Gondwanan, you mean that OG continent.
Yeah.
From that epic somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. Right after Pangea split
That's
up,
right, yeah.
split into two. The top one was Laurasia, and the bottom one was Gondwana.
You had Westeros.
Exactly.
And the
Easteros on the other side. Yes. Which is, and then there's obviously the Salton Seas or the Spice Islands somewhere out there. But yeah, so if we went down there, it would feel temperature-wise the same.
Wow.
But everyone's speaking Spanish.
Sure.
They have a completely different culture. It's more subtropical than it is temperate.
Okay.
So it would feel, I think, a lot more like Northern California.
Okay.
Because it doesn't get below generally 45 degrees, but it doesn't get more hot. Others would say hotter than about 70 or 72, 75 degrees.
Okay.
So it's like,
you've been speaking too much Spanish.
I know, yeah. Sorry.
You're using Spanish syntax.
Oh, damn it.
Okay, interesting. So
Yeah.
wait, that's considered subtropical?
Yeah, Northern California is right on the edge. It still gets cold, but like a freeze the way we'd get in Portland or Seattle just doesn't happen very often.
Oh, like an icy snow weekend?
Exactly. It's like every now and then snow. It's like Florida. Every now and then it snows in Florida or Texas where it shouldn't normally snow.
Sure.
But it's more of these probabilities kinds of things where if it gets down below freezing, it's going to do it once every 10 years, and it's going to be for just two nights kind of thing.
Freak accident.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we don't really need to worry about climate change.
It's fine.
It's just a freak accident.
Yeah. So anyway, I just thought this was amazing. I think if you have the Pacific Northwest of North America, then down here, this would be considered the Pacific Southwest of South America. It's the best way I can describe it.
Perfect.
It's exactly the same, and they create these gorgeous, beautiful trees. It's like, I gotta go.
We've got to go. I say we
need
because I would love to go to Chile.
Yeah, and I looked up some of the places, and it's just so quaint. It just looks
Asiago?
nice. Well, I know. I looked up a very tiny little island. What is Asiago? I'm thinking the cheese.
Yeah, Asiago's a cheese. I was kind of like I was pretending that I was saying the word Santiago, but my
yeah, we got to go to Asiago and Parmesan.
where they make the cheese down in Chile. That's why they call it Chile.
You're good, Alex. You're really good.
Yeah, man. Cool.
Anyway.
Okay, so you know what this reminds me of, Casey? I don't know why this is the first thing I thought of, but in a lot of like stage productions of Peter Pan,
sure,
it's written in the script, I suppose, that the actor who plays the children's father should also play Captain Hook.
Yes. Yeah.
So I think this is like a bit of a, like, this is familiar but different.
Yeah.
Like going down to Chile, we feel like we're in Portland.
We feel like we're in the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah. But something's a little more mustache twirly.
It's just a little strange.
Everybody's a pirate.
This is not. Why is there a crocodile with a clock in its mouth over there?
Well, Casey.
Yeah, there you go.
What a wild ride.
Yeah.
I hope you get a chance to see these trees. I know you love a superlative one.
I do.
And so I think it's in the cards for you.
Thanks, Alex. I hope you do get to as well.
Thank you.
I hope we can.
Oh.
And with that, we are opening up our GoFundMe to take Alex and Casey to Chile. Go to www.completelyarbitrary.com/GoFundUs. And there you go.
I think if we did that, I might want to do one for Japan first.
Really?
Yeah. Ultimately, just go buy a T-shirt. Maybe send us to Japan.
You know what I want to do? I want to do all four corners of the Pacific Ocean. So we'll go from here over to Japan, down to New Zealand, over to Chile, up here again.
Holy shit.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
It's the square of fire.
The square of fire.
Dum, 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 dum. Hey, everybody. That was our discussion of this tree.
Alerce.
Alerce.
Yeah, sometimes Alex forgets what we're talking about.
Well, I looked over at my screen to see the file name of the project we're in. It says white fir.
Oh, God.
We got to give a rating to this tree, but we got to do so right after a break. We'll be right back with Completely Arbortrary. Bienvenidos a Completely Arbortrary. Casey, that was our discussion of Alerce.
Mm-hmm.
It's time to give this tree a review, and here's how it works. We're going to have some final thoughts in Spanish, and then give it a rating of 0 to 10 golden cones of honor. Casey, as our resident expert, we'll begin with you.
Thank you, Alex. I would like to start with, again, looking at the adorable cones and foliage.
I think you mean delicious.
You know, it does look like a corn pop. I just think that this is a tree, and I like some trees, and I don't know if I've ever brought this up before, but I like some trees that are, quote, the whole package, unquote, which means that you look at some trees and you're like, man, that is a beautiful tree. I just love what it looks like. You get closer and you're like, oh, well, these leaves are a little bit disappointing.
Oh, sure.
That cone, it's fine. Honestly, if there were no cones on the street, it would look better. That kind of thing.
It's all curb appeal. Then you get up close and you're like, it's fine.
It's not that good. Yeah, so this is a tree where you look at it from afar and it's got the shape of a tree that I love. A big tree, an old tree, a complex tree, a tree that's been there for a while.
Yeah.
Then you get closer in and you look at the needles, and the needles don't disappoint. No offense, saguaro cypress disappoints. It looks good from afar. You get closer up and you're like, oh, those are a little ratty. Don't you think? Don't you think? Then you look at the cone, and the cone's this adorable little, like, pop, pop, pop. Just literally looks like a piece of popcorn just waiting there. And I just think that's great. So I think everything about this tree is just on the mark. I think it has done a good job from start to finish. It did not skip over the small details of what it looks like and how it acts and how it presents itself.
Wow.
Therefore, I think it's good. I'm going to give this a 9.3.
Holy!
It's incredible.
That's amazing, Casey.
It seems like an amazing tree, and I just want to go down into this forest and just bathe for a while.
A 9.3 golden cones of honor.
This is what I
say from Casey Clapp.
This is what I've chosen. 9.3. An incredible tree.
Well said, Case.
Thank you, Alex. Now, you as the other side of this here partnership, what do you think of this tree? You got any opinions on it?
Yeah, let me say this. Este árbol es increíble. Me encanta mucho y me encantaría verlo algún día.
Well, you just said I would definitely ride my bike to South America to see this tree.
Great tree, Casey. I love thinking about it as the, Is
that the AI translation of whatever you just said in Spanish?
I love thinking about it as, like the distant cousin of the great redwoods here in Southern California or Northern California.
Yeah, and you know what? I didn't even actually find anything that said much about its taxonomy. In terms of like who it's closely related to.
Sure, yeah.
Let me see if I can quickly do that.
Well, yeah, I think it's great. I love the look of it. A Tower of Clouds, as I said. It is, and I'm kind of just parroting what you're saying because I completely agree with all your points.
Oh, great.
That it not only looks great from a distance, you get up close. Every element has something quirky and beautiful about it. I'm a big fan, and I gotta give it at least a 9.0 golden
Wow. It's a perfect tree, at least in the sense of having more than 9.
That's right. And with that, we induct Alerce into the Golden Arboretum of Honor. What an honor it is.
Wow.
Now let me go find my melodica. All of my instruments are in the studio, so I don't know where anything is.
That's right.
To Alerce, we say 3, 2, 1. We honor you.
Honor you.
Good. Perfect. Just like we rehearsed.
Amazing.
Congratulations.
I feel good about that. I really, really do.
Congratulations to Alerce. Congratulations to you and I, Casey. And congratulations to the great people of Chile.
Yeah, seriously. Honestly, without them, I don't know if anyone would really be doing science on this tree.
Casey, it is time for our completely arbitrary AMA. And this is exciting because we got a question from Jason, who has been listening since the beginning of our podcast and says finally became a Cone of the Month Club member.
Hey, thank you, Jason.
Thanks, Jason. We really appreciate it.
We really do.
And welcome.
If anyone else feels the need to join Jason, well, Tremium, that's where it's at.
That's right. Arbitrarypod.supercast.com. Become a Tremium member. We have a couple different options, and it is the best way to support this podcast.
By far.
And maybe get a question on the show.
Exactly. Ideally.
How about that? Okay, this is what Jason says. I recently noticed some street trees that were all chopped just below the branches to eliminate all the leaves from the tree. And on my drive today, I saw small branches starting to come in. That tree is stressed as fuck.
Yeah.
What's going on here from a managerial perspective? And is this healthy for the trees? Because it seems a bit extreme to me. Love the podcast. Keep up the great work. Thank you, Jason.
Well, Jason, I have bad news for you. Or at least bad news for these trees. This from a managerial perspective. Did I say that right, Alex?
No, but I think you should try again because it might be funny.
This from a managerial perspective.
One more time because I was laughing.
Dang it.
Sorry.
This from a managerial perspective. Mm-hmm. Yes, okay. This is called topping. This to me just sounds like they topped the hell out of these trees.
Yeah.
It's a very good description where it's like, well, they went down below the branches and they just cut them off to get rid of the leaves.
Right.
Which is that does it. But it's like, man, I am just so tired of trimming these toenails. I'm just going to cut my toes off.
Right.
It's just the worst possible thing you can do for a tree.
When I was reading the question, because we sort of screened the questions, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was reading it to you earlier. I was like having a hard time. I was like, am I reading this right? That they just cut through the stem?
Like, is that right?
They just made a stump, right?
Yeah, a tall stump, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just classic topping where people think they just have an idea of what a tree should look like. Half the time, other people say, oh, I just don't want this tree to, be as tall. And then other people say, oh, well, it's going to grow back with really big, vigorous shoots, and it's going to be a really healthy tree. And that's it's not how it actually works in a real sense.
I feel like that is an adoption of a myth about human hair. That if you shave, it'll come back
fuller,
thicker,
healthier.
Which is so not true. Like factually, that's not true.
It's just not accurate.
Yeah. Interesting.
It's probably on that level.
Yeah.
And essentially, as we've talked about several different times, topping is bad for the tree because it takes away all of the photosynthetic ability of the tree, i.e. the leaves. I'm sorry that you're going to need to rake leaves or blow them or do whatever you need to deal with. Also, just stop dealing with it.
Also, if your worry is that you don't want leaves, why not just pull the tree out? Like, obviously that sucks too, but like, what are you doing?
There's just a lot of logical errors in this.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, it's really bad for the tree because they lost all that photosynthetic capability, like I talked about.
Yeah.
They also lose all the stored energy that they have inside all of those branches. That's all. Every bit of a tree is also a larder for that tree.
And so it has to kind of kick into emergency rations.
Everything gets stored in its roots, essentially. Yeah.
Damn.
So then it also sends up millions of shoots to basically resprout where it was damaged.
Mm-hmm.
It will start decaying down the middle of that stem because it never completely compartmentalizes, depending on the size of the tree, I should say, because it's not physiologically adapted to do that. A saw cut right through the top of a tree is something that they evolutionarily have accounted for.
Right. They wouldn't grow over the top of it too, because that defeats the purpose of their life, which is to grow upward.
Yeah, sometimes they will, and they will continue to produce like new wood from the cambium. Whoa. But most of the time, that doesn't cover over the entire wound, and decay starts going down, and then you get a cavity, which now has all these sprouts growing along the outside. And the way branches grow is every time a new branch is put on, the tree grows a little bit wider as well. So you have the branch coming outwards, it gets a little bit bigger, and then the stem expands out and gets a little bit bigger too. So you basically get it growing one way and then get covered over. Then it grows out, then it gets covered over, then it grows out and it gets covered over. It's a very strong, evolutionarily adapted structure. It's extremely strong. When you have new sprouts that pop, they're coming from a bud that's latent right underneath the bark. So if your tree is a foot in diameter, if you have a branch that starts from the very beginning of that tree's growth and it's a foot in diameter, it has a foot worth of wood that's holding it up. I should say 6 inches because it would be coming from the middle going out half.
Okay.
So you have 6 inches of that branch is completely reinforced every single year. It's designed that way. If you cut it off, a new one sprouts, it is not built with 6 inches inside of strength. It is only on that very outer section, which, is also decaying in the middle. So you essentially create a new canopy that's getting built on a decaying structure.
Wow.
It's just the worst possible thing you can do for a tree. Maximum stress. And the worst possible thing to happen when you get a bunch of stress is decay organisms come in. So
now from a managerial perspective, now you got a tree that is hollow, and is a safety hazard,
or certainly will be over the next while.
Yeah,
and it's still going to produce leaves. That's what they do. So it's going to be a problem no matter what. If leaves are a problem, which they aren't. Also, on top of this, it's illegal in most places to do this. So if you did this in the city of Portland, for example, then you would get a ticket. You'd have to cut your trees down. You'd have to plant new trees, not new tickets. But that'd be kind of fun.
Ticket plant.
Yeah, instead of a money tree, it becomes an anti-money tree.
Shit. Of course it would in this economy. So Casey, I know whenever people ask questions about city, urban forest kind of management, I feel like it's very negative. We have to be oh, those bastards, they're doing this terrible work. My question, I guess, and I would love a brief answer.
Yeah.
I'm not looking to start a whole thing
how much time do we have? Okay, I see. Okay.
Casey checked his watch, of course. Are there holistic, healthy, good solutions to all of these problems?
Yes, there are. Just proper pruning for your tree. Yeah. But the problem is also a bit of one of culture. People don't want to deal with leaves because they have a certain idea of how leaves need to be dealt with. Okay. And they don't want to get out of there and maintain the tree.
So it's a bigger problem than just people working in urban forestry who go out there and hack trees down.
Yeah, exactly. And if you are pruning a tree properly, then you can manage for dead and rubbing malformed trees, malformed branches.
Okay.
These kinds of things. You can manage for that. Leaves falling, that's just it's a matter of doing business.
Yeah.
But you also don't need to clean them up. Like, leave them on the side of your yard. Like, they're just not that big of a deal. Mulch them into your grass. You don't have grass. The city of Portland takes care of them in many neighborhoods that have big trees.
Yeah.
Push them out into the road and they will come through and clean them up. Or clean them up yourselves and just put it on a podcast like Completely Arbortrary and be cool about it. You know?
Be cool about it, baby.
Yeah, so it's
right.
And it doesn't it's a short-term solution with really long-term issues that come with it. Not to mention you're setting that tree back. It's a 20-year-old tree, now you just turned it into a 5-year-old tree.
Sure.
That sucks.
Well, thanks, Jason, for the question. We appreciate it. And hey, if you have got a question for us that you would like a chance of getting on the podcast, become a Treemium member. We also have a ton of other benefits to doing that, including ad-free listening. You can be a part of the Cone Club, where you get monthly Cone stickers illustrated by independent artists, printed locally, sent to you in your physical, actual, real mailbox. Remember that thing?
Yeah. Hey, we just got the Fraser fur just got sent out.
That's right.
So if you're in the Cone Club, be looking for that. It's adorable. I love this one, honestly.
And we just announced. Can we even call it the Cone Club anymore?
I don't know if we can.
We just announced our very first leaf as a part of the Cone Club. It's the bur oak.
It's so gorgeous. I was skeptical, then I saw the end product, and I was like, this is rad.
Yeah.
So I think people are going to like it. And you know what? If you don't like it, tell us and join the Cone Club.
We'll archive your email.
No, maybe we'll just send out another cone just to make up for it.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be it's not just the Leaf Club now.
No, it's beautiful. The club is just expanding its definitions.
Yeah, baby. This is the 60s, man.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
Casey Clapp.
Alex Crowson, another successful discussion.
Yeah, I had a really good time. And next week, we'll see if we get to the white fur. This might be like Matt Damon coming on whatever that show is.
Next week, Matt Damon, we hope. No, I have no idea what this is.
There's a running bit with Matt Damon and like Letterman or something, or Conan, where Matt Damon will be scheduled to be on the show and he gets like bumped because they run long. And so they just turn it into like a joke where
I didn't know
they're like, our apologies to Matt Damon, you know.
I love that idea. Like a global superstar just gets bumped because we were talking with Kesha and she was really fun.
We had a dog who could do who could play volleyball.
Hey, this dog can talk. Hey, dog, what's on the roof?
Yeah, thanks everybody for listening. And hey, we'll see you next time. Goodbye.
See ya.
Completely Arbortrary is produced by Alex Crowson and Casey Clapp. Our artwork is by Jillian Barthold, and our music is by Aves and the Mini Vandals. If you want to support this podcast and become a Treemium member, head over to arbitrarypod.supercast.com. Thanks for listening.